All right, everyone. Well, welcome back to Student Dream TV. I'm your host, Nina Uguomo, bringing you the best money, investing, and startup tips so you can secure the bag before and after graduation. And as we continue our keynotes series, I'm so excited to welcome Tony Wilkins with us here today. He is, man, a private investor. He has worked in just the public and private sector worlds for years now. And I mean, he's so much more than that. He's a dad, he's a mentor, he's an investor, and he just has so much experience to share with us today. And so for anybody who wants to learn how to thrive financially during and after this new normal, keep listening. All right, Mr. Wilkins, thank you so much for taking the time to chat today. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And I'm loving that photo over your head because it's right around this corner from where I grew up, and it looks like some of me and my boys on a Sunday afternoon, but not quite as long ago as that.
Yeah, no, I love this picture because I think it just speaks to my heart for Black men. You know, I have 3 older brothers, and I just think it's so important to pour into the next generation. Like literally, that picture really speaks 10,000 words to the work that we do here at Student Dream. So, yeah.
I told you we have that photo over our staircase as well. So
yeah,
great minds think alike.
Come on. And so Mr. Wilkins, I briefly introduced you, but I would love for you to, introduce yourself to our community. Tell them, who you are, where you're from, and what you do.
Yep. So I am, I guess, first and foremost, a dad of 3 beautiful Black children who've gotten to be quite successful. I think they would probably say the same thing. I'm a husband, I'm a brother, I'm a father, I'm an uncle. I'm a mentor. I'm an investor. I love my entrepreneurs. I tell people, if you're from Chicago, if I tell you I grew up on the 9, that might tell you something, because it's the same as saying I grew up in, Crenshaw or Watts or Harlem. I thought that when I went to college and got out of school with my engineering degree, I would be working for 30 years, be financially secure in a job that would pay my pension, so that when my hair got gray, my knees got bad, I could sit in the corner and do a rocking chair. And my life has turned out to be anything but that. So I would tell you that today I am exactly what I plan to be, but 10 times more than that, because of things popped up. So it's been a
10X.
strange and very unique journey, but I am where I am, and I'm enjoying it, trying to help other folks. So I'm tickled to be on your show today.
I love it. And kind of just speaking of journeys, I think it's, so many of us always wonder, man, like I got to make sure I'm making the right decision so that this journey can end up, positively for me. Yeah. But I think it's important to know that journeys are like this. They're up and down. And so can you kind of give us a little peek into what your journey was like? How did you get to where you are today?
Absolutely. I will tell you that a couple of things really drove my whole life. And they're really simple, and they may sound pretty silly, but they're honest. When I was young, I have 5 brothers. I'm the oldest of 6.
Wow.
And I love to play, after we got back from church, I love to go out in the alley and play ball with my buddies. But some Sundays we had to go and visit our aunts and uncles and grandparents, and the ones typically that didn't have any kids that we could play with. So we had to go and sit in the couch, on this plastic covered couch in the living room, being quiet. And I used to think to myself, like at 8 and 9, I don't want to have people come drag their kids over to visit me. I want my own kids that want to come see me. So early on, the concept of having a family, so that when I got older, they would want to come see me, was drilled deep in my head. That was one.
Wow.
And that's really helped me make a lot of decisions through life. Number 2, my dad was really pretty strict. He was tough. In retrospect, he was successful, but man, it was really, really tough. So the other thing that drove me was I never, ever wanted to have to come home and live with him. Love him still. He's 85 years old. Don't want to have to go back and live with him now. So those 2 things, which were uniquely me, drove everything. I didn't want to have, I didn't want my name on the top of a building. I didn't want to be famous. I didn't want the same kind of car that anybody else drove. I wanted exactly what I wanted, and it was those 2 things. And those 2 sincere, authentic objectives drove every decision I made for the rest of my life.
That's amazing. And I mean, you're talking about 8 and 9. How did you know what you wanted? You
So
know, like,
great
yeah.
question, great question, great question. So this would be the first nugget that I would drop on people for them to really think about. It was always the little voice inside of me. It was always that thing that I could not ignore. It was authentic, it was real, it was consistent, and it was mine.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody else in the world who had those two objectives in life, but it was personal. So I tell people,
Personal.
the little voice inside of you that tells you that something is right or wrong, or something you really want, or only maybe want it because somebody else wants it, that's the truth. That's the universe telling you this is what's right for you personally. And you know, when you get ready to do something that's wrong, you know it's wrong.
Right.
The little voice inside of you telling you, you know, you shouldn't be doing that. So you ignore it. You know, hopefully it's not fatal.
Right.
If you follow it, I would submit to you, from my experience at least, if you follow what you want, you'll wind up being a pretty happy person.
That's great. Thank you. And so kind of just fast forwarding to the present day,
Yep.
Right? I mean, when you think about just all that's happening right now, literally the world on pause, we have folks who have just graduated and they were so excited about entering the working world, but now they're like,
Yeah.
you know, so as a dad, as a mentor, as a brother, you know, what is your like career and financial advice to everyone who's listening?
So Nima, let me tell you the 5 words that I give to everybody about everything, and the 5 words I would have given myself at 21, 31, 41, 51, through the financial crisis of 87, through the financial crisis of 2000, dot-com bust of 2000, when I lost my job, my first job after a year, and after the financial crisis of 2008. This one is no different. Here are the 5 words. You ready? You ready? You ready?
I'm ready. Get ready, get ready, get ready.
Here we go. Dude, chill. You'll be fine. Dude, chill. You'll be fine. Really. You know,
Dude, chill,
everybody who's listening to this podcast has internet service. They're probably speaking English, or at least understand English. And they've got enough money to pay for their internet service. So out of the 7 billion people in the world, guess what? You're probably in the top 0.1%.
Wow. So
you've got all the tools to do what you want to do if you just consider on what you want. Now, if you want to compare yourself against what dude down the street wants, or a lady on Instagram wants, you're going to have problems. Because I can also tell you, you could compare yourself to Mbukwe in Kenya, in a village, who has nothing.
Right.
We tend to compare ourselves to people who have more, and that is the source of all pain as far as I'm concerned.
The trap.
That is the trap. I like that word even better.
Appreciate that. Dude, chill, you'll be fine.
That's right.
That's the first. I love it.
Yeah.
And so, man, I think when it comes to making decisions, right? So many folks listening are asking themselves, man, how do I make money? Where should I live? How do I get a job? How should I be investing? You know, there's so many questions. How should I be networking? And I think one of the biggest things that I've learned when it comes to decision making is that I first need to figure out what are the questions I need to be asking myself, and then I should be answering those. You know, so from your perspective, what questions do the folks listening need to be asking and answering?
So if the short answer for how you deal with finding a job, financing, getting a job, being unhappy about getting out of college and not being able to find what you want, my 5-word guidance is, dude, chill, you'll be fine. So let me expand on that. As I mentioned, you know, if you've got internet and you're reading this and you know English, you're in great shape.
Right.
What these crises require you to do is think about what you really want, what you need to have, and then do the math on what it's going to take to get there. So it might be that you have to, and one of the things that's actually the silver lining is that you get a chance to think about stuff and do things that you wouldn't normally do, and nobody's going to say anything.
That's a
So if
fact.
you decide, hey, I need $50 this week. I got to have $50 this week. You can go cut some grass, rake some leaves, wash somebody's car, write somebody's resume, go on Elance and do a short project. You can put yourself up on I have a founder who went on a dating site and said, hey, I want to meet somebody who wants to write blogs with me. So
That's cool.
anything that you can even think of that will bring a dollar or a dime in is what you can do. You know, fix your resume, write something on Medium, come up with what you want to be when you grow up. And I guarantee you that'll be a good start, but it'll change and get even bigger and better as you go along. So the first thing I tell people is, look, it is what it is. If you find yourself spending any time having a pity party, you know, it's okay. Put a timer on it for 5 minutes. Feel sorry for yourself for 5 minutes, and then spend all that extra calories on figuring out what you're doing, what you can do. Ask your parents, your uncles, ask your friends, read blogs about what you can do, because the energy that you spend worrying is wasted. And feeling sorry for yourself is wasted. And reading about things you can't do anything about until November when the presidential election comes along is wasted time. So you really have to put your mind to what you can do as opposed to what you can't. I remember a line in a movie said, we're Americans, not Americans. So that's what we all need to put you back into.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And so, man, like thinking about just, you've been through so many crises. But most recently you were at Barney Mellon, correct?
Bank of New York Mellon.
Sorry, yeah. Bank of New York Mellon. Yeah. For how many years?
6 years.
6 years, right. Yeah. And so can you tell us a little bit about that experience and just give us a peek into that world of, you know, wealth management? I think especially as our young people, one of their biggest advantages is time, right? Yes. So I think now's the time to really think about, you know, building your wealth so you can support not just yourself, but your family, your communities. So talk to me about that experience and what is wealth management and what does that even look like?
Sure. So wealth management is turning, when people have made money doing something, athletes, entertainer, executive, postal worker who has saved a lot of money in their 401k or in their retirement plan or rainy days, or maybe they were saving for their kids to go to college and they got a scholarship. That money is money you don't need right now, so you're going to put it in the stock market. Learning about the stock market is kind of like learning about surgery. Okay, you wouldn't go to somebody who just started doing surgery or did a LinkedIn profile and say, "Oh, I did some surgery. You want me to cut that off your neck right now?" No. People who are in wealth management have usually gone to business school. They may have some credentials, and they have studied everything there is about the markets, about investment instruments, bonds, stocks, private equity, convertible bonds. And when you have, one of the things we used to say is, look, we don't make people wealthy, we keep people wealthy. So first thing we do is not lose you money. So if we protect you against inflation. So if a gallon of gas today is $2.59, and we know it's probably going to be $5.59 10 years from now, we grow that money in the stock market so that you can buy that same gallon of gas and it dings you the same amount of time. So it's really about keeping people wealthy. And when you decide, you know, when you get a certain amount of money, let's just say, for instance, $250,000 is in your savings account or your 401k, you might press the option at your job to have Fidelity or T. Rowe Price or whoever, Voya, manage that money for you, so you don't have to think about it, and you can focus on doing the things that put money in that pool. So it's a service like cutting hair or you know, braiding eyebrows. You learn how to do it after a long period of time, and if you like the markets, and you like to read about it, and you find yourself looking at the stock market and time is flying by, then it probably makes sense to pursue that.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you one other thing, back to your question before. I got that job not looking for it. I really thought when I left Northern Trust in 2012, I was through working and I was going to do what I'm doing now. But here's what I mean about continuing to always do the right thing and concentrate on what you're doing. One of the things I like to do is help people out. Just give them my opinion on what I'm thinking. And a woman who I worked with at Northern Trust 15 years earlier and had seen maybe 3 times in between, called me up in 2012 and said, "Hey, I heard you're looking for a job." I wasn't really looking for a job, but she said, you don't want to turn somebody down who's trying to help you.
Right.
And she said, "We've got a job in Chicago with your name on it." Now, this job was in custody. Don't worry about the details, but I had never worked in custody. I hardly knew what custody was, but she said, "This job has your name on it, trust me." I went to Boston to interview, and the guy said, "Yeah, you're exactly what we're looking for." And I said, "Bruce, all I know how to do is spell custody. I don't really know." He said, "Well, don't worry about it. We're trying to hire somebody who knows how to manage multi-billion-dollar relationships, and everything I know about you is that you know how to do that." So yeah, that I got. So I took this job at BNY Mellon in 2013. I still don't know anywhere near as much about custody as the people who work there, but I did know about relationships and managing people. So, sometimes the job that comes your way is one that you had no idea that was going to come that way. So as a younger person, you have to get in the habit of saying, "Yeah, sure, let's check that out," and keep your mind open, because you never know what's going to happen next.
And then that says a lot to you, right? That you were this valuable free agent, essentially. How did you position yourself for people to want to come to you instead of you going to them?
Yeah, and then I'm going to tell you, that one is developing the habit of being helpful to people. Just like inhaling and exhaling. "Hey, what are you working on? What are you doing? What are you thinking?" "Oh, well, I don't know that, but I can introduce you to Nina. Nina's been doing this forever. Let me make an electronic introduction, put you two together." I will tell you that probably the secret sauce, the superpower that I have, comes from probably my biggest weakness, which is sometimes I feel like I do not know how to get from point A to point B, so I'm willing to ask anybody. So the reverse works as well. If somebody asks, sometimes I'll be in New York. It must exude out of me, because I'll be in New York and somebody will come up to me and say, "Do you know how to get to 135th and Morningside?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. I think you just go this way." But that attitude of being helpful eventually comes back to you. And when you're young, you're trying to get so much stuff. You're trying to get your own apartment, get your own car, get your own career, get these student loans paid for. It's easy to remember. It's hard. It's easy to forget that you need to be helpful.
Yeah,
You need
be helpful.
to reach out and try to do something for somebody, like your podcast today. You're trying to help people who you'll never see. But eventually that's going to come back to you in a way that you just can't imagine.
Wow. Be helpful.
Yeah. So I think that's what's really,
that's so good.
That's been the secret sauce for me.
Yeah. And I think for everybody listening, I think it's important to know that you are helpful. I think a lot of times we can easily just get inside our own heads and say, "Well, I don't have $5,000 to give. I'm not a big time investor. I don't have anything to offer." But you do have something to offer. You have unique gifts and skills and experiences and knowledge that you can share with someone, and relationships. And y'all are on Student Dream TV, so you probably have some cash too. So just know that you have something to offer and you can always be helpful.
Yeah. So you asked me about investing.
Yes.
My real love of investing is not in public securities like stocks and bonds. That's how I made my career. That's the work that I did. But I invested a lot of money in entrepreneurs, which is really my passion. And it again gets back to being helpful. As an investor, your mindset is, the obvious mindset is, "Oh, I'm investing so I can get rich." Well,
right.
Yeah, of course. That's a piece of it. But the bigger piece, the more rewarding piece, and quite honestly, the piece you're going to experience more frequently than getting a paycheck from getting a wire into your account from someplace that went public, is just the satisfaction of helping see somebody move to the next level.
Come on.
And be successful. So you talk about, people often ask me, well, how much money do you have to invest? Well, the first person I invested in was my youngest brother, because he had a secret power of getting older people who had beat up cars on milk crates in their driveway to give him the cars. He would just talk people into giving him the cars. And he would put a couple $100 in it, fix the car up and sell it, and probably make, $300, $400, $500. So when he went to college, he had 9 cars lined up in the parking lot that he had begged, borrowed, and pleaded from people. So I said, how much money do you need to fix these things up and get them moving? He said, about $1,500 would do it. I gave him $1,500. He fixed them all up. A couple of months later, I got $3,000 back.
Come on.
So simple stuff like that,
That's so good.
There's a young guy who somebody introduced me to. He's like, Mr. Wilkins, I want to make some money. I thought, okay, well, let's see if you really want to make some money. I said, I'm going to lease you my lawnmower. What?
Okay.
I'm going to lease you my lawnmower. All my neighbors that don't cut their own grass, somebody cuts their own grass, but they probably will say, oh, young man trying to make some money, I'll let you cut my grass for $20. So I'm going to lease you my lawnmower for $20. He was like, $20? Yep. And you're going to go up and down the block and cut people's grass. Now, he had never cut grass before. And in our neighborhood, it doesn't have to be cut really well. It just has to be knocked down a little bit.
Yeah.
Dude made $120. Came back and he was like, it's $20? I said, yeah, I should charge you 20% for using my lawnmower, but I gave you a fixed plan. Give me a 20. Right. So he gave me a five singles and a 10.
Wow.
So it's getting back
That's so good.
Hustle. It's getting to the hustle. And I will tell you, even though I got a lot of degrees and worked on Wall Street, I have always had my 9 to 5, which pays the basic bills, and then my 5 to midnight, which has always been my hustle.
I love that. And so, man, there's so much there. I think the question to ask everybody listening, what's your hustle, right? What's the 9 to 5? And then what's your 5 to midnight? Let us know in the comments section below. Okay.